Have you ever felt it? That quiet, unsettling hum beneath the surface of a life that, by all external measures, should be perfect. You've achieved, you've acquired, you've built, and yet, in the silent moments when the applause fades and the distractions cease, there's a profound emptiness. This is not a failure of your success, it is a symptom of it. It's the vibrational misalignment your soul experiences when it's living in a gilded cage, a prison so comfortable, so beautiful, that you've been taught to call it a palace. You've been sold a dream of freedom that has slowly, imperceptibly, become your most exquisite form of bondage. If this message finds you, know it is by divine appointment. It's a whisper from your higher self, an echo of a truth you've long forgotten. Let your soul affirm its presence in the comments with a simple, "I resonate," or a 777, and let us feel the collective awakening, the powerful recognition that we are not walking this path alone. From the very moment we enter this world, we are tuned to a subtle frequency, a narrative whispered in lullabies, reinforced in our classrooms, and broadcasted from every glowing screen. It's the grand narrative of acquisition, the elegant and simple promise that freedom is something you can purchase. We are taught to equate our autonomy, our very sense of self-worth, with the numbers in our bank accounts. The story is seductive in its simplicity. Accumulate enough, and you will be free. Free to choose, free to travel, free to build walls of wealth so high that fear can never scale them. This promise is the ultimate carrot dangled before us, the sacred gospel of our modern age, echoed in the hurried footsteps of commuters and the hushed conversations at family gatherings. Wealth, we are told, is the master key that unlocks every door, the ultimate shield against the harsh realities of existence. We learn to see life as a ledger, where every action is weighed against its potential for financial return, and every sacrifice is justified if it moves us closer to that shimmering peak of financial success. But what happens when you reach that summit? What happens when the relentless climb is over, and you stand at the pinnacle you've strived for your entire life? This is where the polished surface of the narrative begins to crack. For many who have made it, the view from the top is strangely, terrifyingly empty. Behind this facade lies a more troubling, more profound truth. The great philosopher Erich Fromm warned us of this very paradox. Modern man has not truly escaped the prisons of the past. He has merely internalized them. The chains are no longer forged of cold iron, visible for all to see. Instead, they are woven from the finest silks of social approval, the gleaming threads of our own desires, wrapping themselves so tightly around our souls that we mistake their constriction for a warm embrace. The relentless pursuit of money, which masquerades as the ultimate act of liberation, too often becomes the most insidious form of self-imposed captivity. You enter the game, believing you are playing to win your freedom, only to realize that the game board has no end. It is a perpetual, moving finish line, a mirage that recedes with every step you take towards it. The more you possess, the larger the phantom of loss looms over you. The more you earn, the more you are haunted by the gnawing feeling that you haven't done enough, that you are not enough. What was sold to you as ultimate freedom reveals itself as another, more sophisticated form of control. This is the divine blueprint of the golden cage. It is comfortable, yes. It is luxurious, absolutely. But it is profoundly, psychologically, a prison. You can decorate its bars with designer furniture, fill its space with the latest technology, and even silence the rattling of its door with noise-canceling headphones. But a cage remains a cage. The freedom it promises is purely transactional, a conditional liberty that can be revoked at any moment. And for the countless souls who have reached this supposed summit of financial success, they discover that abundance does not automatically equate to meaning. They learn the hard way that status is not the same as fulfillment, and that the power to buy anything cannot quiet the deep, existential restlessness that stirs within the human heart. The fear is no longer of poverty, the fear is of the void itself. This is the central paradox of our time. We chase money with the divine fervor of a seeker chasing enlightenment, only to become slaves to the very thing we believed would set us free. As a society, we rarely pause to question this logic. We build monuments to those who never stop hustling, who sacrifice their sleep, their health, their sacred relationships, all in the name of building something. But we must ask ourselves, what are we truly building? Is it a fortress to protect our spirit, or is it a magnificent gilded tomb? In the end, it is not the absence of money that imprisons us, but the unexamined, unwavering belief that it alone can save us. And so, the golden bars remain shining, seductive, and deceptively strong. There is a peculiar, deafening silence that surrounds this kind of success. On the surface, everything appears flawless. The life is polished, curated, enviable. The job title commands respect, the apartment gleams with sterile perfection, and the social media feed tells a flawless story of constant achievement and forward momentum. And yet, beneath this flawless exterior, something is quietly deteriorating. It is not a dramatic, sudden collapse. It is a slow, creeping erosion of inner peace. It is the insidious anxiety that whispers that nothing you do, nothing you are, is ever quite enough. The philosopher Byung-Chul Han, in his piercing critique of modern society, describes our time as the achievement society. It's a system where the individual is no longer oppressed by obvious external forces, but by the relentless, internalized demand to constantly outperform, to be efficient, productive, and optimized. The enemy is no longer a cruel boss or an unjust system. The enemy is now yourself. This is the agonizing paradox of abundance. We are surrounded by more material comforts and opportunities than at any other point in human history, yet we are more anxious, more restless, and more emotionally fragmented. The golden cage we spoke of isn't just constructed from material comforts. It is also built from the invisible bars of metrics, comparisons, and suffocating expectations. Success has become a quiet form of tyranny, where even the highest achievers feel perpetually behind. You close one monumental deal, but 3 more await your attention. You secure the promotion, but the pressure to justify it instantly doubles. The more you gain, the more you have to lose, and the freedom that money was supposed to grant becomes yet another performance, another heavy burden, another reason to never, ever truly rest. What makes this modern anxiety so particularly insidious is its invisibility. No one warns you about it. No one prepares you for the crushing mental toll of constant self-measurement and comparison. In fact, you are expected to be grateful. After all, you're successful. What more could you possibly want? But the mind knows. Your soul knows. It whispers doubts in the quiet moments, in the empty spaces between meetings, in the profound loneliness that follows the fading applause. You begin to measure your worth not by the essence of who you are, but by the volume of what you produce. Life itself becomes a series of transactions, a checklist of benchmarks, an invisible race against an undefined, ever-shifting finish line. There is always someone doing more, earning more, living better. And so, you push harder, you smile wider, and you carry the crushing weight of it all in silence. Byung-Chul Han's insight reveals this as a form of self-exploitation. Unlike the oppressive systems of old, where a worker was coerced from the outside, the modern individual is driven from within, a willing volunteer in their own exhaustion. We internalize the frequency of the market, the vibration of competition, the ceaseless hum of ambition, until it becomes utterly indistinguishable from our own thoughts. This is no longer just about capitalism. It's about identity. Who am I if I stop producing? Who am I if my growth stagnates this quarter? If I don't improve myself, maximize my mornings, master 10 new habits, what value do I truly have? And here, in this question, lies the deepest tragedy. We have tragically confused performance with purpose. In our breathless pursuit of money and status, we have lost sight of the very things that once gave life its sacred meaning: deep connection, unbridled creativity, and quiet contemplation. These essential elements of the human experience don't scale. They don't appear on spreadsheets, but without them, something essential within us begins to die. The artist within us grows silent. The dreamer stops dreaming. The relationships we once cherished become transactional. Life becomes a calendar, a KPI, a series of shoulds. This is not a message to demonize success, but to unmask the silent suffering that so often hides in its shadow. The anxiety of abundance is not merely a personal issue, it is a cultural epidemic. We have glorified the hustle and mistaken burnout for bravery. We have turned exhaustion into a status symbol, and in doing so, we have cultivated a generation that is materially rich but spiritually starved. Remember this divine truth. The most dangerous prisons are the ones that don't look like prisons, and the most damaging anxiety is the kind that no one believes you are allowed to feel. But here is the deeper truth. Even within the golden cage, the human soul yearns for something more. Not more money, not more likes, not more accolades, but more stillness, more meaning, more pure, unadulterated being. Until we recognize this sacred yearning, we will continue to run in frantic circles, endlessly polishing our chains, convinced that they are wings. What happens when you finally win a game you never truly believed in? What happens when you climb to the very top, only to discover that the summit is silent and the view leaves you cold? This is the silent crisis that haunts so many who have, by all of society's standards, made it. It's not burnout. It's not depression in the clinical sense. It is something quieter, more elusive. It is a feeling that despite having everything, something essential is missing. Viktor Frankl, the Austrian psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor, gave a name to this condition, the existential vacuum. It is a spiritual emptiness that arises when a life loses its sense of meaning. Frankl observed that human beings are not primarily driven by the pursuit of pleasure, as Freud suggested, or by the pursuit of power, as Adler claimed, but by the profound, innate pursuit of meaning. When that sacred pursuit is stifled, or replaced by hollow substitutes like wealth or fame, the individual begins to suffer in ways that are difficult to articulate. They may feel numb, directionless, or quietly despairing. They may attempt to fill this void with endless distractions, consumerism, travel, substances, sex, but none of it truly satisfies. The hunger is not physical or emotional, it is existential. This is the inherent danger of building a life around money. It is a powerful tool mistaken for a destination. Money can buy time, opportunity, and security, but it cannot tell you why you exist. It cannot replace the aching, divine need for purpose. When we place wealth at the center of our lives, we distort everything else around it. Relationships become transactions, passions become side hustles. Time becomes a currency, and slowly, the vibrant, colorful spectrum of life collapses into a grayscale ledger of costs and returns. To rediscover freedom requires a radical reordering of our values. It demands that we ask uncomfortable, soul-searching questions. What do I truly want? What am I sacrificing in the name of security? Who am I when I am not performing for success? The answers are rarely easy, but they are essential. Because the real chains are not forged by money itself, but by the identities we construct around it, the version of ourselves that is only valid when we are productive, profitable, and praised. Viktor Frankl warned that when life loses meaning, we become vulnerable to existential frustration, a state where we fill our days with tasks and our nights with distractions, always busy but never truly fulfilled. The antidote, he believed, was not pleasure or power, but purpose. A self-transcendent orientation, living not merely for the self, but for something beyond the self. For love, for truth, for creation, for service. Freedom, then, is not the absence of limits, it is the presence of meaning. Byung-Chul Han's critique of our performance society echoes this same divine idea, that we are no longer oppressed by external tyrants, but by internal expectations. We are exhausted not from labor, but from the constant pressure to become our own masterpiece. And in that self-imposed prison, many of us lose our ability to rest, to reflect, to simply be. Breaking free, therefore, is not a matter of escaping work or rejecting ambition. It is about recovering sovereignty over our own attention, our own time, our own soul. Freedom, in its deepest form, is the courage to live in alignment with your true essence, even when it costs you applause, recognition, or certainty. It's saying no to what glitters in order to say yes to what truly matters. It's choosing depth over comfort, truth over image, and meaning over performance. And this kind of freedom does not arrive with a financial windfall. It is carved out slowly, deliberately, through acts of defiance against the lie that we are only as valuable as we are profitable. To escape the golden cage is to begin walking a different path, one that might not look impressive on the surface, but is rich with life beneath the soil. It is the path of the inner rebel, the soul-aligned creator, the quiet resistor. It might mean earning less, owning less, doing less. But in that subtraction, there is a sacred addition: more space for love, more time for wonder, more capacity for pure presence. Carl Jung taught that freedom is not found in avoiding the shadow, but in integrating it. Likewise, freedom from the prison of wealth worship is not found in mere rejection, but in awareness. In knowing that you can play the game, but you are not the game. You can earn, but you are not your earnings. You can succeed, but success is not your name. This psychological distance is everything. It is the crack in the cage, the opening that lets the divine light in. And maybe that's all freedom ever was. Not the power to do whatever you want, but the power to know who you truly are, and to live in fidelity to that truth, no matter what the world expects. Not a mansion at the top of a hill, but a stillness within, a quiet, rooted life that feels like home, even when no one is watching. The final irony is this: once you are free inside, the world outside changes too. You stop chasing, and life starts unfolding. You stop proving, and you start becoming. The cage loses its power because you've remembered something the world tried to make you forget: that you were never meant to be bought. You were meant to be whole.